The ballroom of the Grand Meridian Hotel sparkled with crystal lights and quiet power. Executives, investors, and journalists filled the room, all gathered for one reason: to celebrate the meteoric success of a technology company led by one of the most respected CEOs in the country. Asterisk. At the center of it all stood Elena Carter. Asterisk. She was known for her sharp mind, her fearless decisions, and the way she had built her company from a tiny startup into a billion-dollar empire in less than a decade. Cameras flashed as she walked across the stage in an elegant black dress, accepting applause from hundreds of people. Asterisk. But among the crowd, sitting quietly at the very back, was someone no one noticed. Asterisk. A man in his mid-30s wearing a simple jacket and worn jeans. Beside him sat a small girl, maybe 7 years old, holding his hand. His name was Daniel Hayes, and he didn't belong to the world of billionaires and investors. Asterisk. Daniel was a single father who worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on in a tiny apartment across town. During the day he fixed air conditioners and electrical systems. At night he drove for a delivery company. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous. Asterisk. But that night, fate had brought him into the same room as the most powerful woman in the building. Asterisk. Daniel had come to the hotel only because he had been called in for an emergency maintenance check. One of the electrical panels in the building had been malfunctioning earlier that evening. Asterisk. His daughter, Lily, had insisted on coming with him. Asterisk. Dad, I don't want to stay home alone, she had said earlier that evening. Asterisk. Daniel had sighed, then smiled. Asterisk. All right, kiddo, but you stay close to me. Asterisk. After finishing the repair work in the basement, Daniel and Lily were walking through the lobby when they noticed the grand event happening upstairs. The doors to the ballroom were open slightly, and music drifted into the hallway. Lily's eyes widened. Dad, look at the lights. Daniel chuckled softly. 5 minutes, he said. Then we go home. Asterisk. They slipped quietly into the back of the room, unnoticed among the crowd. Asterisk. Up on stage, Elena Carter was finishing her speech. Asterisk. Success isn't about power, she said confidently. It's about resilience, teamwork, and believing in something bigger than yourself. The audience applauded loudly. But suddenly, Elena paused. Her hand moved to her chest. At first, people thought it was part of the speech. Then her expression changed. Her breathing became uneven. Murmurs spread across the room. Elena swayed. And then, asterisk, she collapsed. Asterisk. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Someone screamed, "Oh my God!" Asterisk. Call 911. Asterisk. Executives rushed toward the stage, but panic filled the air. No one seemed to know what to do. Elena lay motionless on the floor. Her assistant knelt beside her, trembling. Asterisk. Ms. Carter. Miss Carter. There was no response. Then someone shouted the words that froze the entire room. Asterisk. She's not breathing. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Hundreds of people stood there, helpless. And then one voice cut through the chaos. Move. Daniel Hayes pushed through the crowd. He climbed onto the stage without hesitation. Asterisk. Everyone step back, he said firmly. The assistant looked at him, confused. Who are you? But Daniel was already kneeling beside Elena. He quickly checked her pulse. Nothing. His face hardened. Asterisk. She's in cardiac arrest, he said. The room fell silent. What do we do? Someone asked nervously. Daniel didn't answer. He placed his hands on Elena's chest and began CPR. 1, 2, 3, 4. His arms moved with steady precision. Years earlier, Daniel had taken emergency medical training when his daughter was born. He had promised himself he would always be ready if something happened to her. Asterisk. Now that training was the only thing standing between life and death. Asterisk. Someone called an ambulance, he said calmly. Asterisk. Now. Asterisk. A security guard finally reacted and grabbed his phone. Daniel continued compressions. 30 pushes. Asterisk. Then he tilted Elena's head back and gave to rescue breaths. Asterisk. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Minutes passed. Sweat formed on Daniel's forehead, but he didn't stop. Asterisk. Lily stood near the stage, clutching the railing, her small voice whispering. Asterisk. Come on, Dad. Daniel pressed harder. 1, 2, 3. Then suddenly, Elena gasped. The room erupted with shocked voices. She moved. Daniel quickly checked her pulse again. This time, he felt it. Weak, but real. Asterisk. She's breathing, he said quietly. Relief swept across the ballroom like a wave. A few seconds later, the sound of sirens approached outside the hotel. Asterisk. Paramedics rushed in with equipment and carefully placed Alina on a stretcher. One of them looked at Daniel. "Are you the one who performed CPR?" Daniel nodded once. "You saved her life," the paramedic said. But Daniel simply stepped back. Just make sure she's okay. The paramedics wheeled Alina toward the exit. People began looking around for the man who had saved the CEO. But Daniel was already walking toward door. Lily grabbed his hand. "Dad, you did it." Daniel smiled softly. "Come on, let's go home." Within seconds, they disappeared into the night. By the time Alina regained consciousness in the hospital, hours later, the man who saved her was gone. The next morning, news exploded across television and social media. Tech CEO suffers cardiac arrest at gala. Mystery man saves her life. Reporters replayed the footage captured on phones during the event. But the camera angles were blurry. No one could clearly identify the man who had performed CPR. Watched the video from her hospital bed. Her heart pounded not from fear, but from curiosity. Who is he? She asked her assistant. We don't know. The assistant admitted. But we're trying to find him. Elena stared at the screen. The man had saved her life, and then vanished, without even giving his name. For the next 3 days, Elena's company launched a massive search. Security footage, guest lists, hotel employees. Finally, a small clue appeared. A maintenance log. Name, Daniel Hayes. Occupation, electrical technician. Address, a small apartment on the other side of the city. When Alina saw the address, she was shocked. It was located in one of the poorest neighborhoods in the city. 2 days later, a black car stopped outside Daniel's apartment building. Neighbors peeked through their windows as a tall woman stepped out. Alina Carter. She walked up the narrow stairs and knocked on the door. Inside, Daniel was helping Lily with her homework. He opened the door and froze. Alina stood there with a gentle smile. Hello, Daniel. He blinked. You're the CEO. The one whose life you saved, she replied softly. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. You didn't have to come all the way here. Elena stepped inside the small apartment. It was simple, old furniture, a tiny kitchen, but everything was clean and warm. Her eyes landed on Lily. And who is this? Lily stood up shyly. I'm Lily. Alina knelt down and smiled. Well, Lily, your dad is a hero. Lily beamed proudly. I know. Alina turned back to Daniel. You disappeared without saying a word, she said. Daniel shrugged. You had doctors. You didn't need me anymore. Alina studied him carefully. Most people would have stayed, asked for something, recognition, money. Daniel shook his head. I didn't do it for that. Then why? He glanced at Lily. Because if my daughter was the one on the floor, I'd hope someone would help her too. Alina didn't speak for a moment. The simplicity of his answer struck deeper than any speech she had ever heard. Finally. She smiled. Daniel, I came here to thank you. She paused. But I also came with an offer. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What kind of offer? Alina handed him a card. My company needs someone like you. Daniel looked confused. I fix air conditioners. And you stayed calm, while a room full of powerful people panicked. Alina replied. That's leadership. Daniel laughed quietly. You're serious. Completely. She leaned slightly closer. And the job pays a lot more than fixing electrical panels. Daniel looked down at Lily. She whispered excitedly. Dad, say yes. He looked back at Alina. All right, he said slowly. But only if Lily approves. Alina smiled warmly. Deal. And in that small apartment, the quiet single father who once slipped unnoticed into a ballroom walked into a future he never expected. All because, on one unforgettable night, when everyone else froze in fear, he simply stepped forward and saved a life.